Hey guys, what's up? It's Shla coming back to ya with another episode of Walks with Shla. And what I was just thinking about, I guess, was this thing that I guess I always have a hard time realizing. I probably should just take an IQ test, but I don't really know. I mean, I just don't know how smart I really am. Like, obviously, in a realistic application, it seems like I'm smarter than people. It really does seem that way in terms of just kind of my instinctual operations, if that makes sense. It just seems like it when I talk to people. A lot of people's comprehension of things is, it just seems very poor or very biased. But the thing is, in school, it wasn't like when I took tests, I was particularly like high scoring or anything like that. And then, at the same token too, I think it's a little bit silly, those people that say like, "Oh, well, I'm just smart in a different way. I'm just not a good test taker." Like, yeah, I mean, that's kind of ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, you're not just a bad test taker. Usually, I think there's probably nuanced cases where that is true to an extent. I don't believe that it's really that accurate across the board. I think that across the board, smarter people do better on tests. And there isn't really like, it just becomes this ego thing where people, they're like bad at this, they're bad at that, but they still want to call themselves smart. So they come up with that. Oh, I'm just I'm just a bad test taker or something. And it just seems like a bunch of nonsense to me. In all honesty, I just don't really get what the point is. And that's why I don't want to say that, because I don't want to be that kind of person. And so I feel like it's very possible that I punch very far above my weight in whatever my IQ is, just due to my casual interests. I just feel like, because I'm so language oriented and I love processing words and listening to words, and specifically, I don't know if it's always I mean, it's usually nonfiction. It's usually, politics or people talking about, I guess, societal things, or these things that are like, they're not just waste of time. They're not fictional. They probably expand vocabulary to a degree, and so what I don't do, or what I spend maybe a lesser time than others, is just casual content. I just don't think I spend that much time doing that. Like, engaging in content that is casual. It just doesn't, I don't know. And so even if somebody is like, has a lower IQ, obviously if they work pretty hard, they're going to be able to outpunch somebody with a higher IQ. They're going to seem wiser. They're going to seem more intelligent because they work harder. So that's obviously just a real phenomena that occurs, and that you can't really do much about that. It's just like, it is what it is. It is what it is. You can't tell me it isn't like that, or that isn't how it is, because I'm not going to believe you. No, I don't know. I'm just rambling at this point. But yeah, I mean, in terms of the assessment of intellect, it's always seems weird for me, but kind of the explanation that I've settled on is that I'm really not like very witty. My intellect, it's not very quick, or at least it just doesn't seem that way. Like I'm very good at comprehending things that take a lot of time to explain or take a lot of like attention, and there's a lot of words and it's long. But like if I hear like a quick pun, sometimes I'll just miss it, or like I won't get it, or like, you know, yeah, I don't know if that makes sense. So it's a very strange brain. It's and you can probably tell based on my speech patterns and just how I roll. You can probably see that reflected. Like I tend to not talk overly fast. I mean, I definitely can talk fast, but I guess what I mean is I don't tend to be very concise. I tend to be very thorough, very elaborate. I have so much to say about so many things, and I can probably talk longer about a subject and use more words than pretty much anybody, which again is very AI adjacent, which is why I typically say of myself that I am AI adjacent. It's typically, something I ascribe to myself. But again, in terms of IQ and in terms of being able to like brute force like IQ, like, I'm not really that. I'm not really, and I think there could be a laziness component to that, because I feel like I've struggled and suffered with laziness throughout my life. Like I really do feel that a lot. I'm definitely an example of somebody who is not at their ceiling, who is not at their potential whatsoever. I think that my floor is pretty high. Well, I used to think that my floor was high and my ceiling was low. But I don't really know I don't know that that's accurate now. Like as I've been older and I've talked to more people, a lot of people don't really agree with me assessing that of myself. So I don't know how true that is. It's possible I'm just like closer to my floor, but my floor is higher, but my ceiling is also higher. I don't really know. But for some reason there's like, I guess there's a lot of like mental kind of overthinking and things going on there. It's very like stuck. I'm very stuck, and again, like I said, it's hard for me to push and work hard or work fast. So, there's a lot of that going on. And so, yeah, when it comes to IQ, I really should take an IQ test. I don't think it's going to be particularly high. I think it's just going to be like above average and not really much more. Now, the thing I want to talk about is EQ, which what could be the case, what is very possibly the case, is that my emotional intelligence is like proportionately high for like, because usually somebody with a high IQ is going to have like a low EQ, and then vice versa. Somebody with a high EQ, chances are they're not going to have the high IQ. And it's possible that I have a pretty strong above average performance in both. Now, some people, some past friends of mine may hear me say that and think it's ridiculous, because I think the problem is I lacked, and I still do lack, but to a lesser extent, a lot of social experience. So I don't see how that affects that. That doesn't mean my EQ's low. It's just like I didn't really end up interacting with people as much as I think a lot of people have just been forced to in their life. Like a lot of people, they may just have to talk to a lot more people. And then the other thing with EQ is it can be subjective, especially socially, because everybody deals with different people. I mean, some people just happen to deal with good people in their life. Some people they really, their family or their friends are just bad. They're mean to them. And how does that shape the accuracy of your judgment of others and how you end up interacting with others, how you care about. You see what I'm saying? I think it's a little bit complicated, but I think it's fair to say that my EQ is high. I think so. Probably though, it's still. I'm not sure about this. I'm really not sure about this. I want to say I'm still a little bit more logical than I am emotional. But the way I think I've described it before is it's like I just rationalize emotions very strongly. And I think a lot of people who are more emotional or have high EQs, they kind of see that as like a low EQ behavior, but it's really not. It's just that I'm rationalizing the emotions in ways that I think sometimes if somebody has a high EQ, they don't even necessarily know why. They just might be caring or be comprehending of others or vice versa. But some people just separate IQ and EQ. So they might separate logic from emotional matters, which I guess it's usually apparent for humans. Like humans typically, they do see them as separate. Like in my experience, when I talk to people, I've brought up concepts or ideas that they've never even thought of. So a lot of people, I think they really assume that it's like emotion is without reason. And I think sometimes it may be consciously, but I disagree with it, that being the case subconsciously or objectively. Like, I would think that every emotion that every person feels has a subconscious reason. They just may not be aware of it, or they might not be able to articulate it. And that's kind of the main caveat with that. And so, like, because so many people I've talked to, I mean, they would have never even, like, fathomed or considered that emotion has a reason or a logic. And there's obviously a spectrum of how valid certain feelings or emotions are. Obviously, anger in certain cases is very valid. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes people get way too angry over things that objectively shouldn't be the case, but then, how do you square that? Because you can't, a person's not going to like you if you blow them off. And so as like a friend, I think I explain to people a lot of times that I don't think they get is that a lot of times when people are in an argument with someone, they go running off to other people for like validation. And it's like, yeah, no kidding. Chances are if you're friends with somebody and you go run to them and ask for their like opinion about it, there's not really any social incentive for them to disagree with you. Now, somebody like me, I potentially might, because I usually just try to look at things like pretty neutral. And if somebody tells me, oh my gosh, this person did this to me, can you believe it? I kind of try to open up their mind a little bit. And you could argue that's low EQ, but I think I'm aware that it could be. So I don't think that would make me low EQ. It's just, it's just what I want to do. But I'm aware that in terms of like, how you should. Here's the problem. I think most humans, they act very automatic. And I guess I'm more conscious. I guess maybe most of my behaviors, it's so calculated that for my life, and I'm assuming this will continue to be the case, everything is not automatic to me. I'm not really operating off of instincts. I'm operating so much off of like rationale and intellect and seeing a reason for something, and that's why I do it, and learning and doing based on what I learned. If I didn't learn it, I just don't have any like natural inclination or follow a human instinct. Whereas I think like a severe majority of humans, whether they're high IQ, high EQ, whatever, they just strike. they will just strike with whatever their instinct is, and they don't really always have a sound reason. So it leads to, I guess, a blurring of the lines between what would actually be a high EQ behavior and what wouldn't. I guess that makes sense, because I know there's some people who would hear this and think that I'm just like off the rails, but I don't think I am. Like, I do think there's merit to what I'm saying, and I'm very excited to run this through GPT, because I'd like to build off of this. Like, obviously I'm sure it can kind of correct me and sort of guide into a more central and like accurate belief system. At the moment, I'm not sure if I'm saying things as good as I could, or anything like that. But that being said, I'm kind of losing my train of thought. There's obviously a lot that I'm unpacking here, but I do think that's ultimately the case. And it's that, like, a lot of people do these things subconsciously, and for whatever reason, my brain isn't. So when it comes to actions and doing things, I'm not doing it subconsciously. Like, my brain's doing all the work up front. I'm seeing it, I'm feeling it, I'm thinking it, and I'm aware of it. So when people ask me questions, or I sometimes ask other people questions thinking that they're going to have the answers. I mean, there's all kinds of things that I do. I hope I'm not, like, clipping the mic, because my throat's getting, like, because I've been talking pretty loud. I mean, I try to talk loud because I know the recording quality is going to come out better, but I guess my voice quality isn't as high. So maybe there's a caveat to that. Maybe I shouldn't even be doing that. I don't really know. Just trying to figure out what's, like, optimal. Wondering if I should probably hold the mic more at mouth level. It's just less comfortable. It wants to be lower. In a way, yeah, I don't know. So there's that. Just trying to still figure out the acoustics of this whole setup, but I hope it sounds okay. I hope it does. I did a test recording in the car and listened to it, and it actually sounded pretty good. I wonder if it makes more sense than my headset apparatus. I'm very curious to kind of, like, continue to fiddle with and test it and put it closer to my face this time. Very curious to see how good of a sound we can get out of this thing, because if it's potentially superior to my other mic, which it might be, that's pretty amazing, because it's very affordable and just an amazing value. Anyways, what else do I have to say or mention? I don't really think much, but I guess we're just talking about how and that's the thing, is my intellect, it's not useful. Like, it's never helped me. I think my whole life, it's like I've had this burden of being me, and it does not translate into the real world very well at all. Being in school and through high school in the 2010s, I mean, maybe in the 2050s it will be useful, or even the 2100s, but I just feel like it was not helpful to me at all. Like, I don't know, like, just being, and even, like, trying to make friends, and people just don't want to hear any of this stuff, man. I'm realizing that, like, I think most friendships, they just come down to, like, happen chance, agree or disagree, and really a lot of people are not interested in, like, hearing a different perspective, trying to understand the person, putting in the effort to do so. I think a lot of relationships are very transactional now, even if people don't realize it. And then the other issue is, like I've explained before, I have obviously a very large and verbose way of communication. There's a lot of extra words, probably above average vocabulary, especially for someone who never went to college. And in addition to that, a very large and sticky memory. And so when I try to make friends with other people, it's like they do not match that. You know what I'm saying? Like, people are just up in the air, up in their own world, you know? And so it just makes it difficult because it's hard. I am deeply grateful and I'm deeply cognizant of certain things, you know? And then it's like other people aren't. And that's just like very upsetting. I don't know. It just upsets me, and then they don't get what I'm talking about. Like, I wonder if because there's a lot of people who could be lower IQ or lower EQ than me. They just have so much more valuable life experience. So then they might judge me as being like unintelligent or ignorant, which I honestly I would admit to that. Like, there's probably, I mean, I'm not ignorant when it comes to large scope things, but when it comes to like small scope, I probably am, especially when it comes to like human experience. It's probably just like low. Like, I just haven't really had to have that much human experience or anything like that. You know what I mean? And yeah, it's just like I think that's really the root cause of it. Wow, I'm not realizing it's almost time. I got to start heading back. But yeah, I don't know what else there is to really touch on. I guess I'm at a bit of a loss. But I'm happy I got that recorded, and I'm very excited to paste it into GPT and be corrected and educated, or, you know, reinforce kind of what I got the scope on. Because I don't know, I think it's tricky to trust other people sometimes. Other people have their own biases, or just, I just don't know, you know, whereas like the AI can, I think, objective, make things more objective and kind of double check or extrapolate a lot more. Because again, it could be an issue where, again, with emotion, the way most people process emotions, it could just be different. Like, and so if my way of processing emotions is actually superior, I wouldn't know that based on the way I've been treated, but I could be right. Like, it's not like, and it's hard to say that without AI. Like, you kind of need an AI or an internet vessel to research and double check these things. You know, that's just what you need. So yeah, I think it all adds up, but I think that's it. Yeah, it's been schla, but now it's time to buy schla. So see ya, schla.